So this is a free challenge, and I thought of doing this free challenge because I know that a lot of women are struggling to find balance in their lives during this pandemic, me included. So in spite of being a therapist, being an energy alignment coach and a Kundalini yoga teacher, I have found that the universal energies have been very dense. And since we're all made up of energy, it affects us negatively also. We get lethargic, we get dense. The whole atmosphere is basically reeking of, victimhood, right? Because everybody is, everybody thinks of contracting the virus as a form of victimization. So, not to make light of it, but I think we need to rise above it and change our mindset, because mindset is everything. So today we're talking about mindset reset. So that's exactly what we need to do. We need to get out of this victimhood thinking and get into victorious thinking. So in these next 3 days, what I hope for each one of you is that you find, or you start to find, that deep, that deep reservoir of strength that in India we call Shakti. Shakti is the personification of divine power. She is the mother, she is the creator. She is also can be, graciously, or what should I say, she can also be lovingly wrathful, right? Like a mother has to, sometimes reprimand her child. So we need to find that Shakti within us, because we can't get it from men, because they don't have it, unfortunately. Only women are blessed with this. So I want you to, before we start, just close your eyes and set an intention. So close your eyes and just set an intention for this 72-hour challenge. You're only going to be with me for an hour a day. So if you can, and if you may, if you would like, place your hand on your heart, both your hands on your heart. And just bow your head. Just get into your body. Get out of your head and just start feeling. What are you feeling right now? Don't judge it, just observe it. And now just let it go. Just be present for the next 58, 55 minutes. Just be present. I'm going to make an intention for all of us, and you can feel free to either add it or make a different intention. I am so happy and grateful now that I have decided to participate in the 72-hour Shakti Metamorphosis Challenge. I know the issues that I'm struggling with subconsciously, and I ask the universal wisdom, I ask the force field to show me the right path. I surrender everything to the universe, to divinity. And I choose to release whatever does not serve my highest purpose for my highest good. And I choose to welcome into my life that which does serve my highest purpose for my highest good. Because I am a full potential divine being. And so it is in full faith, and so it has come to pass. Take a deep breath in. Hold it. Let it out through your nose. Take your time. And once you're centered, you can just replace your hands wherever they were. So, my dear sisters, I always believe that whenever we start anything, we always need to dedicate the merit to something greater than ourselves, because especially during this pandemic, selfishness is passé. Thinking of yourself is, pretty redundant. Hello, Manpreet. Thinking of yourself is pretty redundant. Welcome, Manpreet. Thank you for joining us. So you can watch the replay of what you missed, Manpreet. It was a little intention setting, which is important. So you can watch that. So basically, I think we need to really rise in Shakti. We need to really rise above what people are telling us, what the media is telling us, what our friends tell us, what WhatsApp groups forward to us, what the news channels are professing as gospel truth. Because whatever you believe, like Henry Ford said, if you think you can, you can. If you think you can't, you can't. And I honestly believe that ever since I stopped really paying attention to the newspaper, I have NDTV on my phone. It's like, all of us are Indians here, so we know what NDTV is. And so, if I need to hear headlines, which is important, COVID-related news, I will listen to it, but I will let the rest of it just pass over. Because you don't need to live in this desperation and fear. So, which is why I'm doing mindset reset first. Because we really need to reset the way we're thinking about, certain things in our lives. And especially during this pandemic, you're possibly quarantined. I know in my city we're quarantined in Bangalore, and the quarantine is actually extended now for another 2 weeks. So, you're sharing such close space with people who are not really on your energy. Even if you want to think positively, if you want to, engage with, positive, media news, it's very difficult. And so when you're surrounded by all this stagnant energy, dense energy, diseased energy, distressed energy, it obviously affects you because your cells are permeable. So today I'm going to be referring to my notes because I have a few topics like you would have read in the PDF, and I don't want to miss anything. Oh, thank you, Manpreet. I was shooting the whole day at a friend's villa. He was the only one who was allowing me to shoot for my upcoming course, and I just came back through the rain. So whatever I could, just change my clothes and just sit in front of the live. And my mother was like, "You're doing a live now?" I was like, "Yeah, I don't have a choice." So I hope I'm able to serve you today, and you can watch the replay later. And also after this, you can collect your free gift, which is really going to help you today. Okay. So I'm going to be looking at my notes on my iPad. So excuse me if I break eye contact with you. So we're talking about a couple of things. We're talking about how to frame an affirmation correctly. We're talking about the 2 different kinds of gratitude. We're talking about how to think on your feet in the spur of the moment, and how to dismantle old beliefs consciously. So we are going to have a Q&A where you can type in your questions and I will be answering them for the last 15 minutes. So if you have any questions, just keep them in mind or jot them down on paper or on your phone, and we'll get into it. As I talk, you might have more questions, and feel free to ask me as many questions as possible, okay? So, all of you have heard of the law of attraction, and if you haven't heard of the law of attraction simply states that like attracts like. Now we all know that the universe works on 12 laws. Some call them the 11 forgotten laws. A few of them are the law of vibration, the law of resonance, the law of gender, the law of gestation, the law of earning a living, compensation, the law of compensation, the law of attraction, the law of gravity, and the list goes on and on, okay? Now the law of attraction is not a primary law, it's actually a secondary law. So I'm sure a lot of you watched The Secret, which is all about the law of attraction. But a lot of people, the movie came out in 2007, and I remember I watched that movie at least about a dozen times, and then I actually was feeling quite let down because nothing that I tried in that movie really worked for me. And it may have worked for you, which is great, but it didn't work for me because I really didn't know what I was doing with the law of attraction. I thought the law of attraction is, if you say an affirmation like the way Louise Hay used to teach affirmations in the late 70s and 80s and 90s and right up to till she passed away from her mortal body, I thought that if you just say affirmations once or twice a day, and if you were happy when you said the affirmations, and you were feeling good if you said the affirmations, then like things will just materialize into your life. And I was in for a rude awakening because nothing materialized into my life. I was forcing myself to get happy. I was even dancing and trying to behave like, like I'm happy, trying to fool myself. And nothing worked because I just didn't understand that the vibration that I was living in, we all live every single moment of our lives in a vibration. So right now, my vibration, this is for me personally, and you'll have to see how you feel, which is when I talk about vibration, it's basically a vibe, a feeling. Okay, so my vibration, the frequency that I'm vibrating at is the frequency of sharing, of giving, of love, of compassion, which is why I'm doing this for you, right? So that's my vibration. So obviously I'm energized, I'm feeling good, I have no expectations from you. I just want to deliver you 1 hour of solid content just like I promised. So my intention was to deliver solid content and to change your life, or at least plant the seed of change in each and everyone's life, whether you're watching it live or on the replay. And now I've followed it up with the same vibration. So I set the intention wanting to give and compassion and generosity and provide more value and whatever else, fill in the blank. And I'm feeling like that. And this feeling is not just coming and going. It's a generally pervasive feeling, like all through the day, even when I was shooting, I was feeling like this. I needed to get back on time. I wanted to serve. I didn't want to lose a connection because I was like, oh my God, I've told them it's going to be epic if I can do this, and then they'll be so disappointed. So I was literally, praying to the universe. So I was vibrating in the same vibration. That's what the law of attraction is, because the law of attraction is not multilingual. It does not understand English. It does not understand Malayalam. It understands vibration. So for the law of attraction to work, you have to have 5 elements, and I'll quickly go through them because this is just an overview of how you can reset your mind. Okay, the first thing an affirmation has to have is gratitude. So you always start an affirmation with "I'm so happy and grateful." Now why? Because gratitude opens the doors. Like I said, if the lights go off and on, please excuse me because it's pouring torrentially in Bangalore. So the law of gratitude is when you open up to the universe. See, you can't be grateful for something negative in your life. You can only be grateful for something positive in your life. However, you can be grateful for lessons learned. For example, now if I lose the connection on this, God forbid I don't, but if I lose the connection on this, what is the lesson I can learn from this? I have to think about that. And I can have gratitude that at least I was able to spend 12 minutes with you before I reconnect. Or if I was not grateful, it would be, oh my God, this always happens. Why can't we do this? Why is the electricity board so cheap? And why don't they give us electricity? And why does this always happen in India? You see the drift? So the vibration of gratitude brings in more, because you're putting out a positive energy into the universe and you're showing that you are respectful and grateful for what you already have, whether it's a lot or whether it's a little. And so the universe responds to you by giving you more. So gratitude, whenever we frame affirmations, and I'll frame an affirmation for you before we end, your affirmation has to have gratitude. Now affirmations are based on the law of attraction, right? Because you're affirming something to the universe based on the principle of the law of attraction, and that's why affirmations work. Okay? So we've explained the law of attraction, and I can go into it in detail in the Q&A if some of you need an in-depth explanation. But when you're framing an affirmation, it is based on the principle of the law of attraction because you want the law to work for you. That's why you're affirming to the universe what you desire. The second proponent, or the second leg of framing an affirmation correctly is, what do you want? That's self-explanatory, so I won't waste time on that. What is it that you desire? Again, what you desire, not what your mother wants for you, not what your husband wants for you, not what your father wants for you, not what your boss wants for you, not what society wants for you. What do you really want? What fills you with passion? What fills you with power? What fills you with joy? What lights you up? That is your desire. So what do you want? Number 2. Number 3, there has to be a definite time frame, because the universe operates on speed. You know, people who don't take decisions fast, they never really succeed in life. And I've seen this in my own life. Whenever I used to, I'll think about it, I don't know, I'm scared, I have to ask my boyfriend, what will my mother say, oh God, is this the right thing? So basically, you don't trust yourself, you don't trust the universe, which is why you cannot make a decision, because you're always leaving things to fate, to chance. We make our own fate. There is nothing such as chance. There are no coincidences in life. If the universe is so intelligent to make a leaf, to make an elephant, to have seasons, to have moon cycles, if the universe is that intelligent, do you think the universe is going to have things happen by chance? I don't think so. Do you think it's going to be a coincidence? See, in English, it's a very limiting language. But there are no coincidences. What is a coincidence? A coincidence is just divine synchronicity. That's a coincidence. Nothing happens by accident. Even an accident doesn't happen by accident. There is a cause, there is a condition. You defied that cause and condition, you met with an accident. It may not be your fault, but there's also another person involved with the accident. It's not like it's only you, right? An accident, or if you fell down the stairs, you didn't just fall down the stairs because you fell down the stairs. There was something. Maybe you didn't look, maybe it was slippery, maybe your shoes were new and you didn't have a proper footing. I don't know, fill in the blank. But what I'm trying to say is there are no accidents. So you have to have a definite time, because the universe doesn't understand I will have it when it will happen. It will happen, ke sara, whatever will be, it will happen when it happens. The universe doesn't operate on that spirit. The universe operates on definiteness of action. The universe operates on decisions, thought about decisions. But even when you think about a decision, you have all the information in front of you and then you take a decision. You don't dither, you don't waver, because that sends the message to the universe that she doesn't know what she wants. So maybe I won't give it to her, because what if she doesn't really want it? So it has to be time bound. I'm so happy and grateful now that I have 10,000 US dollars in my bank account by the 10th of October 2020. It's a clear message to the universe. So we finished gratitude. What is your desire? Time bound. The fourth one is you have to frame it in the present tense. What did I say? I'm so happy and thankful now that I have 10,000 US dollars in my bank account. Now that I have means it's already done. I'm not saying now that I will have, now that I may have. No. Now that I have, ho gaya, I have it with me already. Okay? So you have to frame it in the present tense or the present continuous tense. And then of course, like I said, the manifestation date. So think very carefully about an affirmation when you make it. Okay? Because affirmations can backfire if you don't believe them. That's the other thing. You have to believe an affirmation, because we as human beings have very little self-belief. We believe others more than we believe ourselves. Especially as women, since we've been told what to do all our lives, since we've been judged all our lives, we would rather believe our best friend, even if it's another woman or a man or somebody else, but we won't believe ourselves. And that's the first mistake we make. So when you make your affirmation, sit with yourself, close your eyes, talk to the universe. Dear universe, please help me to frame this affirmation for my highest good. Check out the affirmation. Is it working for you? Do you believe it? Go through it every day. Keep chopping and changing the affirmation, and then stick with that one affirmation for 21 days. In fact, we have a program that I run, which is called Miracles, in which I only focus on people setting law of attraction affirmations. Because the way you frame an affirmation is really important, okay? So now we're moving on to the two different kinds of gratitude that make a difference in your manifestation. So the two different kinds of gratitude are, one is when you have effortless gratitude. What is effortless gratitude? You have a great house, you have a wonderful husband, you have a great car, you've just manifested 10,000 US dollars in your account, you have lots of food to eat. You know, life is good. You're living the good life, as they say. And if you are even a slightly spiritual person, don't you think that you will have gratitude for that? So usually people associate gratitude with something that's going well for them, something that's positive, something that's, that what they desire has come true. So gratitude is always slightly tinged with condition. Gratitude is tinged with condition. Like when we go to a temple or a mosque, or a church or a gurudwara or whatever, a synagogue, we always ask God for something and then say, if you give me this, then I'll give you that. Don't you think that's a bit immature because you're bartering with somebody who created you? Wouldn't it be much better to say, I have full faith that this will manifest because I am made in the image and likeness of the divine. The divine loves me. So why won't I get this? I have full faith that I'll get it. The reason why people's prayers come true in any particular religion is not because they beg of that particular deity. They have blind faith. And because their affirmation is based on, in a prayerful way, and they say something like, only you can help me, only you can cure my mother of cancer, only you can do this. I have full faith that you're going to do this for me, and I know that it will be done. That's why their prayers are answered, because there is nothing blocking them. No doctor can block it, no infection can block it. Cancer may be 4th stage cancer also, and I know people who have come back after 4th stage cancer. So cancer can be anything, any stage, or whatever the disease is, even HIV, whatever it is. Tumors have become, malignant tumors have turned benign because of people's blind faith. They are operating on the law of attraction, but in a very different way, and they don't even know about it. But they are operating on the law of attraction because they have full faith, they have blind faith, they have a certain amount of gratitude in their hearts because obviously it's the divine. They know exactly what they want. They know exactly who they're praying for, or if they're praying for themselves. So you understand that it's a very conditional form of gratitude. There is another form of gratitude which very few people have. And that's the gratitude for everything that manifests in your life, whether it's negative or positive. It's a most solid kind of gratitude. And this kind of gratitude will help you to get through something like a pandemic. Now, people in a pandemic are completely haywire. They're not thinking straight. They're not communicating right. They have no sort of sense of belief, balance. Everything is kind of out there on a tangent. They are victims of the external forces around them. Okay, so they're not thinking about having gratitude for the simple food that they're eating now. You may not be going out to a Starbucks or to XYZ, but ghar ka khana bhi hai na. You're eating simple food. Dal chawal hai, you're eating simple food. Have gratitude for that. You have a home, you have electricity, you have a warm bed. The migrant laborers, the doctors, look at their plight. The migrant laborers are sleeping in containers meant for cars. How horrible is that? Doctors don't even get a chance to sleep. They are wearing diapers, and if they have to go to the toilet, they just have to go in the diaper because they can't risk infection by going to the loo. You don't have to wear a space suit like they have to wear. Now, this kind of gratitude, if you have during a negative phase of your life, like the pandemic, this is going to hold you in good stead. Because when you can have gratitude for the little things in your life, then when the universe understands that you have gratitude, even for a simple meal on your table, or even for slippers on your feet, or even for time spent with family, then the universe will open up its abundance to you. So I always begin my day with gratitude. The moment I get up, I rub my hands and feet together. We'll be doing this tomorrow. I rub my hands and feet together to activate all the thousands, more than 100,000 nadis in our body. I stretch, and then I say, I'm so happy and thankful to be alive today, and I ask all the cooperative components of the universe to help me to have an amazing day, and I smile. I literally smile. And I'm out of the bed. Okay? So, this kind of gratitude, just for your breath, for life, is the gratitude that's going to hold you in good stead, even in the future. So, moving on to the third thing is how to think on your feet. It's very easy to sit on a meditation cushion and meditate. I meditate, I wake up at 4:45 without brushing my teeth, washing my face, nothing. I pull out my meditation cushion, which is one of my pillows, sit on it, put my headphones on, and either do a Vipassana meditation or a Kundalini meditation or a Buddhist meditation for about, say, anywhere between 10 to 20 minutes, depending upon how I'm feeling. I'm not a purist. I believe in doing what my mind and body tells me. I don't care who tells me what to do what, I will do what my body, mind and soul tell me. I'm true to being myself. So even if purists say you're supposed to meditate for 30 minutes a day, if I don't want to, I won't. I'm not going to torture myself to meditate for someone else's standards. So that's the Shakti that I have and I'm true to it, right? So when you talk about meditation, it's very easy to be calm, your breath goes down, you go into an alpha state, you have all these auto-suggestions, you can frame an affirmation, you can focus on your breath, you can focus on how to get rid of anger. All this is great. What happens when something happens to you in the thick of things? What happens to you consciously when somebody gives you bad news in the middle of the office? You've been fired, you've been let go, we don't have money to pay your salary. What happens to you then? Supposing somebody asks you, listen, we're going on Zoom for a call and we have 5 minutes and you have to prepare because you're doing the opening intro. And you're like, what? Then what do? The first thing you're going to do when you're in a crisis and you need to think on your feet is you're going to breathe. Pranayama, you're going to breathe. 3 cycles of breath. Take 6 counts on the inhale, count to 6, hold the breath for 3, count to 3, exhale through your nose using yogic breath. Don't breathe through your mouth. Inhale 6, hold for 3, exhale 9. Just do that for about 3 cycles. Then you're going to count backwards. I'll explain this to you at a later stage of the program. You're going to count backwards, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What happens this? It breaks the pattern of suddenly being frozen or suddenly not knowing what to do, and it forces you to think. Because it's very difficult to count backwards. We're not programmed to count backwards. We're programmed to count forwards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're not programmed to count 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We really have to snap out of it and get our conscious faculties, our prefrontal cortex, our cognitive faculties working. So you count 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then you're going to reframe the situation by again, self-talk. We always talk negatively to ourselves. We never talk positively to ourselves. So this is the time you're going to start. You're going to start by asking the universe an intelligent question. How can I do this for my highest good? How can I make this successful? What do I need to do this right now? Please, dear universe, just help me. And I know it sounds very simple and some of the things I say, you may be thinking, she's just repeating herself like it's not me. But believe me, repetition is progress. Repetition is the only thing that's going to form these habits with you. And when you ask the universe a simple question like, how can you help me? The universe is going to show you how. When you ask the universe a stupid question like, why is this happening to me? The universe is going to say, because, I don't know, maybe you're stupid. I don't know, maybe you are not prepared. I don't know, maybe you deserve it. So ask the universe intelligent questions. Ask lofty questions. Dear universe, how can I make this work? I have 10 minutes. Show me a way. Ask for help. Ask. Even if you have, ask people for help. Even if people say no, at least you know that you tried. So ask for help. Okay? So you're going to reframe the situation. Get out of that negative frame of mind like, I'm not prepared, I can't do a Zoom call, no, I don't know what the introduction is, okay, what do I do, where do I do, how do I Google, what is his name, what do I say? Get out of it. Breathe. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ask the universe, how can I make this work? What do I need to do first? How can I make this work for myself and for the highest good of everybody? Give me direction. Give me direction. And try it. You will be surprised as to how you can reframe that situation and how you can actually get an answer in that crisis. And the next thing you're going to do is you're going to move. Energy flows where energy goes. Emotion, even the word emotion is emotion. Whenever we feel positive emotions, we want to jump, we want to sing, we want to dance, we want to tell the whole world, yahoo, you know. You see people in football stadiums doing that wave. They're not sitting there and saying, they're not doing that, right? They're like animated and they're like hugging each other and you know, because that is emotion. What happens when you have a negative emotion, when you're sad? You don't move. Why? Because the energy is dense. The energy cannot move. Which is why people get depressed. Do you know a depressed person who walks around like this and walks briskly? I don't. Depressed people. That's why they get uppers. So move. Take 10 steps forward. When you move forward, it's an indication to your subconscious mind that things are moving forward. It's positive. Nobody walks backwards consciously, right? Unless it's a competition or unless it's a game or something like that, or you're defying somebody or daring somebody, you'll walk backwards. But whenever you walk forwards, you're walking towards progress. You're walking towards something. So the subconscious mind understands that. So you're going to remember these 4 steps. Breathe, the 5-second rule, reframe the situation by asking lofty questions and move. You can do the last 2 together. Walk up and down and ask, universe, help me. How can I make this happen? How can I do this? How can I, help my team? I don't want to let them down. Show me the way. Give me direction. Anytime you get an intuition during that time, anything that, it'll be like a light bulb, act on it. That's your intuition. That's your Agnya Chakra. That's your pineal gland. Act on that intuition. Now we're moving on to the last one, which is how to dismantle old beliefs consciously. So a lot of us women carry these old beliefs from our dadis and her dadi and her grandmother and her whatever, We carry these matriarchal burdens. And I call them matriarchal burdens because only women have them. Men seem to be like burdenless. They get burdened later in life because of their own insecurities and because of XYZ. But we're not here to discuss them. We're here to discuss Shakti and women. So we get, these burdens are placed upon our shoulders, even in the womb. So if we are energy, then obviously the fetus is absorbing its mother's energy through the umbilical cord. I mean, you're eating what your mother eats. You're defecating through her intestines. You're breathing the air that she breathes. So basically, you're absorbing her energy, her emotions, her thoughts, her actions, her health, everything you're absorbing. Okay? So going by that logic, which is a scientific fact, I'm not making this story up, right? When you talk about that, which means that her beliefs become yours on a subconscious level, definitely. That's how babies, sometimes are born with autism, because the mother is completely disconnected from the child. That's how autistic children are born. Even in the womb, they feel alienated because she's being forced to have the child, or she was not ready to have, whatever the reason is, okay, or she was raped and she doesn't want to have the child, but her parents don't believe in abortion, or her religion doesn't believe in abortion, so she has the child. So autism is basically a disconnect, right, which is why the child is numb, it's oblivious. It craves love, it wants to be held, it wants to be loved unconditionally. You see, autistic children, they melt when you hug them. I've worked with a few autistic children, and it's every time I cry, because even if you show them a little bit of love, they're like a pet, they melt. Okay? So, coming back to what I was saying, when you are absorbing all this, these heavy burdens shape us as women. Subconsciously, if you're constantly being told as a toddler, girls don't go there, girls cannot become a pilot, a girl can't do this, and if you ask, but why is he allowed to do this? Oh, ladka hai, he's a boy, he can do it, you can't go there, you have to be home by 7. Even in today's day and age, a lot of conservative families in India and in certain other parts of the world face this kind of discrimination, and they don't even know why they do it. The men know why they do it, because obviously it's a superiority thing. But the women do it to women, and we do it to women because my mother did it to me and her mother did it to her. So it's a patriarchal burden that's basically coming down from one person to another. Now, when that's happening, first of all, number one is accept it. Don't deny it. Accept that, yes, I have this limiting belief about myself. I have this limiting belief that I can't do what I really want to do. I have this limiting belief and I accept it. Now, once you've accepted it, you've broken down that first barrier. Next, you're going to journal. You're going to write down one particular limiting belief per week, or you can put down 2. something that's been programmed into you, something that your mother told you that you actually don't really believe to be true, but you've taken it on because it's been programmed. So it's basically like a software program, right? Unless you uninstall the program by cleaning out your hard drive, or unless you reprogram it or you update the software, that old program keeps running, right? And it tends to disrupt your computer. Your computer will become slower, or it won't open up as fast as before, or it needs a rehaul, or some software may get corrupt because of this software. So I'm not a very technical person, but you get the drift, right? So we are basically living our lives based on other people's negative programs. See, we can adopt negative or positive programs, but unfortunately women are ingrained with a lot of self-debilitating programs because it served society. All through the decades, it served society at some point in time, because I think Mother Nature empowered and endowed women with so much Shakti that it scared people around them, which is why we have so many female goddesses, right? They are the epitome of strength. They symbolize courage, wrathfulness, love, beauty, music, money. How come all these avatars of all these virtuous things, how come the avatars for all of them are women? Because we have that Shakti within us. But we've been robbed of our Shakti by our own mothers or grandmothers or great-grandmothers or the matriarchy in the society in which we live. And you can't even blame them. Please forgive your matriarchal figures if you feel that you've absorbed negative programs from them, because it's not their fault. They were only doing what they were taught. And it's only because of fear that we've been instilled with these negative matriarchal programs. And so even in my own life, in my own society, I was first in show business, I was a singer. And I was the black sheep of my family, including my mother and father. They were a bit ashamed of me, I think. And so I know what it is to live, a kind of a double life, which is why when I decided to get into energy therapy and healing, I really made a conscious effort. Like, I really want to help women specifically, because there are a lot of things happening out there, but women need that extra care, that extra love, that extra support, that extra Shakti that only a woman can give another woman. You can't get it from a man, unfortunately, because they don't understand us. We're complex, divine, multifaceted creatures. And I say creatures because it sounds so earthy and it sounds so sensual. And it doesn't just sound, it is. We're earthy, we're sensual, we're divine, we're naughty, we're lovable, all in one beautiful package, right? So I think only another woman can understand what another woman is, one woman can understand what another woman is going through. So the first thing you need to do is to accept. And once you accept, you forgive automatically, right? You can't accept something if you don't forgive it. The second thing is you're going to journal. You're going to write down on a piece of paper, what is those limiting programs that are limiting you? What are these old beliefs that are really putting a kind of a speed breaker in your stride to move forwards, to progress in your life. And then you're going to do the Ho'oponopono technique, which I will briefly explain to you, and you can watch the replay and you can practice it every day. So it's an old ancient Hawaiian technique which lots of people know about because it's being used very, very widely all over the world, including in the prison system, especially in the US. It has 4 sentences, but I've kind of modified it into 2 sentences, and then one sentence each. So I've modified it into 6 sentences because I think that I've noticed with my clients and me, it works better that way. The first sentence is, I love you and I accept you, and you put your name at the end. So I love you and I accept you, Avril. Now, originally it was just I love you and your name. Now, why did I add accept? I added the word accept because a lot of people say that they accept themselves, but when you ask them, so that means you love yourself? No, I think, I don't know, I don't love myself that much, yeah, but I accept myself, I'm okay. They've lost the plot completely. That is not love and that is not acceptance. Now, I love myself just the way I am. In lockdown, for every month, I think I put on 1 kilo. So I was 57 kilos when lockdown started, and now I'm 60. And I was standing on the scale the other day, and usually maybe around 5 years ago, I would have been, oh my God, you can't even keep a diet, you can't even do this, and where's the love in that? So now I'm just owning my curves. I'm like, I'm fine. I can lose the weight, and I accept myself just the way I am. And it's so peaceful when you can make peace with it. When you can make peace with something like that, it's literally liberating. So obviously I love myself if I've accepted the fact that I'm still beautiful inside and out, which I truly believe I am. Then I can love myself without any kind of barriers, without any kind of limitations. So the first sentence is, I love you and accept you, Avril. The second sentence is, I forgive you. The third sentence is, I'm sorry. So now what we're going to do is, so I love you and I accept you. I thank you. I forgive you and I'm sorry. Now, what are you thanking yourself for? You're thanking yourself for everything that you've done for yourself, just to get to this stage in your life. I forgive you for all the times that I've been mean to you. This is you're telling yourself, right? It has nothing to do with somebody else. I forgive you for all the time that you've been mean to yourself, for all the time that you put yourself last, for all the times that you judged yourself, for all the times fill in the blank, because we have been so unkind to ourselves throughout our lives. We've always put ourselves last. We've always been feeling less than. We're always comparing ourselves to movie stars and to, Bollywood actors or Hollywood actors. And we forget that all of that, given the current scenario in Bollywood, in India, it is ridiculous, right? People committing suicide, people fighting over. It's so vain, and vanity is such a limiting, it's so limiting. Being vain is so limiting. Loving yourself is so empowering. Accepting yourself is so empowering. But vanity and superficial beauty is so limiting, which is why you're always insecure, you're always jealous, you're always sad, you're always living, on tender hooks, right? So, and then when you say, I'm sorry, and I will write this down for you later, you can pick it up from the chat. When you say, I'm sorry, you're saying, I'm sorry for all the things that you're forgiving yourself for. So, I'm sorry for all these things that that I've forgiven myself for. Okay? So, that's the Ho'oponopono technique. And later on, if we do another challenge together, hopefully, then I can go into doing meridian tapping with the Ho'oponopono technique, because it works like magic. Okay? So, before I go any further, we've almost finished, but before I go any further, does anybody have any questions that they'd like to ask me? And you can type it in. So does anybody have any questions that you'd like to ask me? You can type it in and I can answer them for you. Before I, talk about my journey and how I came to be here, and, why am I doing this and what's the reason that I'm doing this for. So I can see that you guys are still live. So does anybody have any questions that they want to ask me? I will give you some time to frame your questions. Okay, so I'm wondering whether you can chat. Yeah, so I just sent a message, hi, but I don't know if anybody else is on here live. I can see you, but I don't know whether it's still live. Technology is not my forte, so I just want you to know that. So if I goof up, please forgive me. Okay? So the Ho'oponopono technique, I'm just going to repeat it for you. I love you and accept you. I'm grateful and I thank you. I'm sorry, please forgive me. Okay? So, if nobody has any questions, then I'm just going to jump into, what my journey has been so far and how I came to do what I do. So basically, I was a singer in Bombay, and I was in Bollywood as a not a playback singer, but I was more into doing advertising work. And I also I ghost wrote songs for people, and I used to do a lot of jingles, and I almost did playback. I did playback for one movie, a Subhash Ghai movie with Ismail Darbar. And I was just about to sign a full-fledged Bollywood movie as a rap artist and a singer. Unfortunately, the Kargil war happened. Okay, I'm reading this. Okay, so I'm just going to press see more. Okay. Okay, Sangeeta, I'm really sorry to hear about your father, and as you can see behind, that's my father, and I nursed him for 3 years because he had terminal cancer, and that also made me shift entirely from show business into the energy sciences. Now I know that it's not easy, so I'm not going to tell you that it's easy, because it's not easy. Losing somebody as close as a parent is something that no child wants to face, because especially girls, we really dote on our fathers. So yeah. Okay, so see, your purpose in life has nothing to do with another person. Your purpose in life is your purpose in life. So, and I understand what you're going through, because I was quite numb when my father died, even though my father and I both knew that he was dying. When he actually died, I was numb. For about at least a month, I was numb. It took me some time. I was functioning, I was working, I was doing shows, I was doing gigs, all that. But inside, I felt like I was broken. So I totally understand what you're feeling. And what I realized during that time is that if your father were looking down on you from heaven, or if you believe in that concept, what would your father want for you? Realistically speaking, what would your father want for you? Your father would, number one, want for you to be happy. Your father would want for you to achieve what you have set out to achieve. Your father would want for you to fulfill your own purpose and to live a life of passion and fulfillment. So these are things that any parent wants for their child. So if your father were alive, would he be happy with the way you are today? No, it would make him even more sad, right? And it sounds very easy, but it is a very deep concept. Let's not, think about this from a very superficial level. Your father has left his earthly body. Your father is in a better place, okay? And no father wants their child to grieve for them endlessly. A certain amount of grief is good. It realigns your energy. It allows you to detoxify these heavy, dense emotions like sadness, anger, disappointment, fear. All these emotions come up when you lose a parent. So crying is very cathartic. Mourning is very cathartic, because when people go into shock, they can't even cry, right? So they try to slap them around, or they try to do something and make them cry. So crying is it's a very good thing to do for a certain amount of time. But beyond that, it then becomes very self-indulgent. And I'll tell you why I'm saying this. After some time, you'll notice that it's no longer about mourning your father. It becomes more like you start feeling sorry for yourself. So that perspective shifts from I've lost my father to, oh poor me, now what will I do without dad? How can I go on? How can I live? How can I re-find my purpose? So it becomes tinged with self-pity. And when you have self-pity, you will slowly start swallowing yourself. It's like a whirlpool, and you're slowly, going round and round, and it's sucking you in. Because that leads to despair. That leads to intense loneliness. That leads to intense sadness. That's when you lose any sense of identity, because now You're seeing your identity through the loss of your father. So you're identifying only with the loss of your father. So my advice to you would be, accept first that he is gone, cry your heart out if you still need to, and then you're going to start writing on a piece of paper that this is what my father would want for me. Think about the conversations you've had with your father. Think about what he would have said to you. What was his advice for you? What was his dream for you? And then make that your purpose if it aligns with your own purpose. If your father supported you in what you're doing, and if that brings you passion, if that gives you a high, then make sure that you do it so well that it not only honors his memory, but it honors you as a full potential divine being. So do whatever you need to come out of this. Mourn the way you want to mourn, but cap it. Also start talking to the universe and asking the universe to show you the way. Asking the universe for help. Dear universe, you know how much I miss my father. Please show me the way. Or whatever deity you believe in, please show me the way. Because all these deities are just manifestations of the divine, right? They could be Jesus, it could be Buddha, it could be, whoever, Allah, Jehovah, Krishna, Lord Shiva. These are just manifestations. So have that relationship of complete trust and complete surrender to the universe. Open your energy up to the universe. Also, a lot of deep breathing. Whenever you feel this intense sadness, breathe deep. Journal. Whenever you do, whenever you journal, you get all these toxic emotions and feelings and all out of your mind and onto paper. So there's more room in your energy. There's more room to think, to breathe, to live, to be. There's more room because you get all this out of your, out of your body. So I hope that this helps. It's a very brief, explanation as to how to get out of this. But do you have, does this make sense to you, Sangeeta? Do you feel that, that something of what I'm saying is kind of resonating with you? If you do, just, message in the chat. And if you don't, if you're still having a problem with something specific, if you don't mind sharing it, then I can, get into that. Does anybody else have any questions? Manpreet? Priya, do you have any questions that I can help you with? Was something on the live not very clear that I can explain again? Okay, Sangeeta, you're saying yes. So yes, does it make sense to you? Is that what you're saying yes to? Does it give you any kind of a roadmap as how to move forward? Is that what you're saying? I hope it is. But you can always reach out to me even privately if you want to talk about this, in a little bit more depth. We can set a time and we can do a 15-minute call and we can talk about it also. So the reason why I moved, I can keep answering questions, but I just wanted to tell you that the reason why I started doing what I'm doing as an energy therapist and as a Kundalini yoga teacher and as a transformation coach is because I was in show business for so long, and okay, good. I'm glad, Sangeeta. I'm glad that it's helped you. Okay, so I was in show business for so long, and I just felt this emptiness, and I just felt that even though I had money, I had my own apartment in Bombay, I could travel. I've seen a lot of the world. I've done more than 3,000, 4,000 shows. I was singing with stars, and I was, on stage with, different kinds of people. I've opened international shows for Michael Learns to Rock, and I did a gig with, Usha Utub and Remo and Shan and Sunita Rao and all these fantastic singers and Aarti Kakkar. But I just felt like it was very, very superficial for me. And for me, my purpose was not to be a great singer. My purpose was to help people. And I converted to Buddhism, and His Holiness the Dalai Lama is one of my gurus, and I had recorded a particular sutra in Sanskrit called the Heart Sutra, and I had given it to him as a gift, and he heard it and he was very, very happy with it. And then he told me, he said, the world has so many entertainers, but we need healers. And that's when I said, oh my God, I need to do something to help people. Because you know, I never had anybody to help me. I have struggled all my life with confidence issues. I was told I was too fat, I was too short, I didn't look Indian enough, I didn't have an Indian voice, I was never going to make it big. This everything. And I've been physically abused. I was sexually abused as a child by a family member. I was physically abused. I was mentally tortured by my first husband. I'm not married anymore, I'm divorced, but I was mentally tortured by him. I was physically tortured by him. And I never had anyone to help me. No friends came to help me. My family said, oh, you chose to marry him, so, you know, till you're living with him, we can't do anything, otherwise leave him and come home. I didn't trust myself because I felt like, oh my God, what have I done with my life? I've made a huge mistake with this guy. So I didn't trust myself. I trusted him in spite of him being a drunk, but I didn't trust myself. I didn't think I was good looking. I didn't think I could sing well. I was always comparing myself to other singers. And so to cut a long story short, I have literally been to hell and back. Okay? And I did not have anyone to guide me. And every person I turned to for help took advantage of me. I literally had to go back to the drawing board, and I literally had to say, either I am going to do this or I am going to die. Either I am going to help myself or I am going to die, because I was depressed. Luckily, I didn't take medication. I turned to meditation instead. I could never meditate. I hated meditation, but I still meditated. And at that time, when I was going through this rough patch, I just felt so alienated that I also was thinking of suicide. I literally thought, you know, maybe I'll just end this and commit suicide. And I've never spoken about this publicly on any public forum, but I'm sharing this with you because we women go through so much. We carry so much subconsciously in our hearts, in our thoughts, and we don't have one person who we can honestly share this with. And so, yeah, Sangeeta, I understand. It's very painful. And you know, in all my courses, I tell women, because I do a lot of Shakti courses, my brand for women is called Shakti. And in all the courses, I tell women, no one is coming to save you. No one will come to save you. You have to be your own strength. You have to be your own refuge. You have to save yourself. If you have faith in the divine, if you have faith in yourself, even 10% faith, then your life is in your own hands and you can take it to the level you want it to be. So 3 years ago, in March 2017, I packed up all my stuff in Bombay. I moved out, sold my apartment. I, literally cut ties with everybody in Bollywood. I deleted everybody's number from my phone, you know. And at that time, my mom was having a knee replacement surgery, and I said, this is what I needed. This is what I needed. I needed that divine nudge. And no one is going to be able to look after my mother except me. I gave up everything in Bombay. I gave up a lucrative career. I was earning in upwards of 5 lakhs, sometimes 10 lakhs a month. And I gave up everything, came back, and I was always studying. I never went to any Bollywood parties because I couldn't stand the fakeness there. I never did all this PR work, going to record, music for directors in the night. I never did it. Never, ever, because I knew what it was going to lead to. Because let's face it, the casting couch is a real thing. I've been propositioned n amount of times by very, very famous music directors. So I know that it exists. And I never wanted to give in to that. So I was constantly studying. I certified in pranic healing, and I had the good fortune of studying under Grandmaster, the founder of the Pranic Healing Foundation. Certified in Law of Attraction with Bob Proctor, who's in The Secret. Certified in EFT. Certified in other energy modalities. Kundalini Yoga. I just kept studying, and any money I made, I invested it in courses. I spent thousands of dollars, because all these are international programs. I spent thousands of dollars studying. When I came back to Bangalore, I had enough knowledge where I could start my own company. And that's how I'm here with you today. So Sorry, my throat's a bit dry, sorry. So, it's my honest belief that if I can do it, anybody can do it. And I'm not just saying that because I want to make you feel good. I'm the last person to say something for effect. I'm very honest, and some of my clients sometimes they say like, you're very, very honest, like sometimes it's too much to take. But I believe in honesty. I believe it's better to, and I always am kind, but I'm very honest. If I don't, believe in something, or if I don't agree with something, I'm not going to say that I do just to please you, because in the end, it's going to hurt you, right? So, I literally was the worst version of myself about 5 years ago. The worst version of myself. And I did this on my own because I had no one. And the reason I'm doing it today is because there are many women like me who have no one. And you don't need to put your hand in boiling water to know that it's hot. I'm here to tell you, trust me, sister, it is hot. Okay? So, your free gift is on its way to you. I hope that you will take the opportunity of downloading it. Stay true to being you. Place your hand on your heart, bow your head. Offer the merit of this live session for the benefit of all sentient beings. Offer the merit of this session to your own metamorphosis, to find your Shakti, to rise in Shakti, to embody Shakti, to live in Shakti. Because you are the ultimate Shakti, you are the truth, you are full potential living in a physical body. I send you lots of love from my heart to yours. Like we say, Atma Namaste. Take care of yourself. You're more than welcome. Yes, you can change your life. You can do anything you wish. You can do it, you will do it, and you are doing it right now by being here, because you took the time to come to this, Sangeeta. So my prayers are with you, my prayers are with all of you.